Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have the final of the Jurassic World Dominion Wave 2 Super-sized Captivz figures to take a look at. This is Velociraptor Blue, and it looks pretty cool. You know, it doesn't look exactly like Velociraptor Blue, but doesn't look too far off either. I would say they did a pretty good job of capturing the likeness of Blue. I think the thing that's off the most is just how large the teeth are. I think the teeth look a little bit too big, but they still look really cool at the same time. And one thing Captivz and Toy Monster International are very good at is sculpting out really highly detailed figures, and that's definitely what we can see here with this Velociraptor Blue. And the more I look at it, the more I think it actually does kind of resemble Blue quite nicely. It's just the teeth. The teeth are the only thing that's really off, I think, about the figure. But regardless, it is still a really cool version of a Velociraptor Blue, and really exciting to have a supersized version of her. So let's jump to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Velociraptor Blue, you can see again we've got a pretty nice dynamic appearance for her as she's letting out a vocalization or maybe heading in for an attack. You can see we have some nice fine detail here in the face, and there's also a nice grayish tone to her body and a dark gray wash that's been applied, which looks really cool. Definitely adds a little color variation to her. You can see the nostrils there and the tip of the snout. We've got a nicely painted eye with a yellow and a black pupil. You can also see we've got the blue stripe here leading up, and it is applied correctly for the most part as it comes up and over the eye and then down into the palate and then under the eye as well. Maybe a little of the blue running under the eye would have been nice, but it still looks pretty good. And you can see when we lead over here to the other side, the blue stripe does end before the eye, which is also correct as far as Velociraptor Blue goes. You can see the teeth are pretty big, and I think that's the only off-putting thing about the figure. I think the teeth look a little bit too menacing on her, but you can see they are painted very nicely, and we also have a pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth, which looks nice, and there's also a nicely sculpted tongue in there and some nice detail potentially on the upper side. Yeah, not a whole lot, but there's a little bit there. But as you move down the course of the neck, you continue to see really nice, very vibrant scale detail. We also have the blue stripe continuing to lead down. We also have the white outline there around the stripe. As you continue to move down, you can see a very nicely sculpted arm here. You can really see how that dark wash has been applied perfectly to highlight the detail, but it's not overly dark, it's not overly thick as far as the application goes. You can see as you move down into the fingers also look nice. We have some nice scoots down the fingers, and we have painted nails with a very light tone of kind of like a light gray. As you move back up into the stomach, you can see the rib cage there slightly. You can also see the skin kind of wrinkling there in front of the thigh. Again, the dark wash really highlighting the detail quite nicely. We've got the spinal column here moving along the back of Blue. As you move down into the thigh, you can see some nice muscle definition, the kneecap, all of that fun stuff moving down, as well as really nice scale detail. And then you move down into the foot sculpt. We've got the sickle claw, and again, the nails are painted very nicely with a light gray. Got the scoots down the toes, and we do have a dew claw, but the dew claw unfortunately is not painted. But as you move back up here, you can see the skin kind of stretching off the thigh into the tail, and then as you lead up into the tail, you can see a really strong curve. It leads out and then swings back around entirely. The tail would be super long if this was actually straightened out. Like you could see, that would be a very long tail. But you can see, again, the blue stripe runs the entire way out onto the tail, all the way almost to the tip. And then if we look at the opposing side, you can now see all the same style of detail. There's not going to be a whole lot of difference on this side compared to the initial side because the head and neck is pretty straightforward. And you can see the arm is in a different position. It's held up a little higher on this side compared to what we saw on the initial side, and the leg is taking a step forward over here compared to what we saw with the opposing leg, which was kind of trailing. You can see the detailing and everything here in the stomach region looks really nice, just like we had seen on the initial side. We've got the hip bone again and a really nicely sculpted out foot here for our Velociraptor Blue, and then of course we lead up with a really nice curve in the tail, and you have some nice fine detail running here along the underside as well. Again, all very nicely highlighted with that dark wash. So that's a really cool version of Velociraptor Blue. Super exciting to have a supersized version of her. Definitely a really nice interpretation of her as well. As far as a size goes for Velociraptor Blue, lengthwise you're looking at a little over 4.5 inches or a little over 11.5 centimeters. I knocked her over. And for a height to the top of the tail, just shy of 2 3/4 inches or 7 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our super-sized Captivz Velociraptor Blue, which you can see she falls right there in the same similar size range as most super-sized figures. And then to show you the difference between the standard Velociraptor Blue that we usually get, I think we might have had maybe 2 different versions of Blue so far, if I can recall, but I may be wrong on that. But this is the one that I think we've had the most, which you can see clearly has like a turn in the head and neck where it's looking back behind it. And you can see the arms and everything are different as far as the positioning and everything goes. So the Velociraptor Blue that we had for Jurassic World Dominion, when it comes to the supersized version, is definitely very obviously a different sculpt. Maybe some similarities, as we have kind of the same shape of the tail and potentially the same positioning of the legs, but there are also some aspects that are different, like the arms and the head and neck and everything. So very cool to have a little difference on this Blue. And you can see obviously a pretty big difference when it comes to the size between a standard Captivz and the supersized version. And then for one final comparison, we have the supersized Spino next to Velociraptor Blue, just to give you one last comparison to further show you again. If you've got the Spino already, you can see Blue's a little bit bigger, but mostly, I would say, very similar in size. So this supersized Captivz Jurassic World Dominion Wave 2 Velociraptor Blue, there's always quite the name to get to that point when it comes to these Captivz, depending on the line and everything they are a part of, but is really cool. You know, I'm actually quite psyched to have this one because I was really bummed when I found out that I wasn't going to be getting this wave and there was no chance for me to really find it initially, which now obviously has changed. But mostly for this figure specifically. Like, I was really upset that I wouldn't have the supersized Carno because I love Carnotaurus. It's my favorite dinosaur and I really wanted it. But at least I had that sculpt in a smaller size already. Whereas this Velociraptor Blue was different. It was a very different sculpt overall. And I really wanted that because, you know, to actually miss an entire sculpt would have been even more of a bummer than just missing a supersized dino. But having it here now, I'm really happy to actually have it in my collection because it actually looks really nice. And I would say it looks nicer in hand than it did from the initial images I had seen of it. I think originally I was a little off-put just because the teeth looked a little bit big, a little bit kind of more ferocious than they should. But having it here, I don't think they look too far off. I mean, they are very clearly not perfect, but they do look pretty good overall. And the figure as a whole, I think, looks great when it comes to the fine detail. They've done a very good job on sculpting out the scale detail, all the skin folds and wrinkles and stretches and stuff, and also applying a really nice paint app to it. Again, these are minifigures. Even if it is a supersized version of a minifigure, it is still a minifigure, and we've got a gorgeous, fully painted appearance to this. We've got the teeth painted, the inside of the mouth, the eyes, the blue stripe all the way down onto the tail. The nails painted. We also have variations of color as we have the light gray for the body and then the nice dark wash tying it all together, just giving it a very realistic and lifelike appearance in my opinion. And that's something that can be said for the Captivz line continuously, because even though they are minifigures, they always give you the highest quality minifigure possible, and that is definitely what I see here with this Velociraptor Blue. So another really cool addition to my collection, another really cool addition to the Captivz line. It is a shame that this one was almost, missed entirely. Like, it was very few and far between that I had even seen anybody finding this, so I was really excited to actually get a hold of one and add it to my collection. It's just kind of a shame that more people worldwide didn't have a chance to actually acquire this, especially here in the United States. We didn't get any of the Captivz as far as the supersized figures go until the 30th anniversary line, and hopefully that'll change now moving forward. Now that we did get the supersized figures here, I hope that we will continue to get them. But again, this was like a lost cause at one point for me, but luckily my good friend Jurassic KM stepped up and contacted me, of course, to send over some of his really cool repaints and also to help me to get a hold of these figures, and now I luckily do not have to miss out on them. But if you are interested in this Velociraptor Blue, again, it's going to be a little tricky to get a hold of, so you could try contacting someone in Canada that might know the whereabouts of this wave at a store near them, if they are still selling them, since Dominion now is, a year old. But hopefully they'll have a chance to acquire them for you, or maybe you could check out eBay or somewhere like that and maybe score them from there. I'm not too sure. But one way or another, if you do have a chance to grab it, it's definitely a nice figure, definitely worth picking up. So make sure you grab this if you can, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.